A beam of light races toward a black hole at 186,000 miles per second. Nothing in the universe moves faster. Light doesn't slow down, doesn't get tired, doesn't negotiate. It just goes, always at maximum speed, always in a straight line, always escaping everything. Except here, at the edge of this black hole, something impossible happens. The light stops escaping, not slows down, not curves away. It tries to leave, traveling at full speed in what it thinks is a straight line away from the black hole, and it goes absolutely nowhere. The fastest thing in the universe, moving at maximum velocity, making zero progress, running at full sprint while staying perfectly still. That should be impossible. Light doesn't work that way. Space doesn't work that way. Yet every black hole in the universe does this. And here's what's going to break your brain. The light isn't being pulled back. There's no force grabbing it, no cosmic hand reaching out to drag it down. The light is doing exactly what light always does, moving in a perfectly straight line at constant speed. The black hole isn't breaking the rules. It's breaking something far more fundamental. It's breaking space itself. Let me show you what Richard Feynman understood that changes everything about reality. Here's what you learned about black holes. You probably heard they have such strong gravity that nothing can escape. Even light gets pulled back in. The escape velocity exceeds the speed of light, so nothing gets out. That explanation sounds reasonable. It matches your intuition about how gravity works. Heavy things pull harder, need more speed to escape, but that explanation is completely wrong. And the reason it's wrong reveals something so strange about the universe that once you see it, you can never unsee it. Let's start with something familiar. Throw a ball up in the air. Earth's gravity pulls it back down. Throw it harder, it goes higher before falling. Throw it at 7 miles per second, 25,000 miles per hour, and it escapes Earth entirely. That's escape velocity. Makes perfect sense. Now apply that logic to a black hole. The gravity is stronger, so you need more speed to escape. Eventually, the required escape velocity exceeds the speed of light. Since nothing goes faster than light, nothing escapes. Simple. Except here's the problem with that explanation. It assumes light can be pulled on by gravity the same way a ball gets pulled on. But light is massless. Gravity pulls on mass. Light has no mass. So how does gravity affect light at all? You might say gravity pulls on energy and light has energy. Okay, but that just moves the question. Why would gravity, which we think of as a force between masses, care about massless light? And here's the deeper issue. If gravity is pulling light back, then light should slow down as it climbs out of a gravitational field, the same way a ball slows down when you throw it upward. But light never slows down. Light always moves at exactly 186,000 miles per second in a vacuum. Always. That's not just a speed limit. It's a fundamental constant. Light doesn't have a throttle. So if light can't slow down, and gravity can't pull on massless things the way it pulls on balls, then what's actually happening at a black hole? The answer is so weird that it took Einstein to figure it out. And even then, he didn't believe black holes could actually exist. He thought the math was predicting something too strange to be real. Gravity doesn't pull on light. Gravity doesn't pull on anything. Gravity isn't a force at all. Stop and think about that. Your entire intuition about how gravity works, everything you learned about planets orbiting stars and apples falling from trees, it's all based on thinking of gravity as a force. A pulling force reaching across empty space to yank things together. But that's not what gravity is. Here's what Feynman understood, what Einstein showed us. Gravity is the curvature of space itself, not a force moving through space, the actual geometry of space bending, warping, curving, and this changes everything. Think about what space actually is. Not emptiness, not nothing. Space is a thing, a real physical thing that can be measured and affected. When you move from here to there, you're moving through space. The distance between 2 points is a property of space. And here's the key insight, the geometry, those distances, those measurements, they can change. Mass warps space. Put a massive object somewhere and the space around it curves. Distances get distorted, the geometry changes, And when space curves, things moving through that curved space follow curved paths, not because a force is pushing or pulling them, but because the space they're moving through isn't flat. Here's the thought experiment that makes this click. Imagine a stretched rubber sheet, perfectly flat. Now place a bowling ball in the center. The sheet curves down around the ball. The space near the ball isn't flat anymore. Now roll a marble across the sheet. The marble curves toward the bowling ball, not because the ball is pulling on it, but because the marble is rolling across curved space. It's following the straightest possible path through curved geometry. That's gravity. The sun warps space around it. Earth moves through that warped space. Earth is moving in a straight line through curved space, and that straight line through curved space looks like an orbit to us. The moon warps space. Ocean water moves through that warped space. That motion looks like tides. You warp space very slightly. Objects fall towards you. They're just following the geometry. Now here's where black holes become absolutely mind-destroying. Regular objects curve space a little bit. The sun curves space enough to hold planets in orbit, but the curvature is gentle. Space is bent, but it's still mostly pointing outward. If you move fast enough, you can follow a path through that curved space that leads away. A black hole doesn't just curve space. It curves space so violently, so completely, that every direction becomes inward, not metaphorically, literally. At the event horizon, the boundary of the black hole, space curves so much that the only direction that exists is toward the center. Think about what that means. You're at the event horizon. You point away from the black hole. You shine light in that direction. The light moves forward in a straight line through space, exactly like light always does. But space itself is so curved that forward through space equals inward toward the black hole. The light isn't being pulled back. There is no back. The geometry of space has curved to the point where all directions that used to point outward now point inward. This is what Feynman understood that most explanations miss. Inside the event horizon, leaving the black hole isn't difficult. It's geometrically impossible. It's not that you don't have enough speed or enough energy. It's that the direction out doesn't exist in that region of space. It's like asking which direction is north of the North Pole. The question doesn't make sense. The geometry doesn't allow it. Here's another way to think about it. Time and space are linked. They're part of one unified thing called spacetime. And here's something that will restructure your entire worldview. At the event horizon of a black hole, time and space swap roles. Outside the event horizon, you can move freely through space, but you're forced to move forward through time. You can go left or right or up or down, but you cannot go backward in time. You must move forward through time. It's not optional. Inside the event horizon, that reverses. Space becomes time-like, and time becomes space-like. You can move freely through time, but you're forced to move inward through space toward the singularity. Moving toward the center isn't something you choose. It's as inevitable as moving forward through time is outside. You cannot avoid it. You cannot resist it. You cannot slow it down. Reaching the singularity is as unavoidable as reaching next Tuesday. And here's the absolutely devastating part. From your perspective, nothing seems wrong. You fall past the event horizon. You look around. Space looks normal. You can still point in different directions. You can still shine light in those directions. Everything seems fine, but you're already doomed. Not because of any force acting on you, but because the structure of space-time itself has trapped you. The geometry of reality has shifted such that your future, all possible futures, every path you could possibly take, they all lead to the singularity. There is no escape, not because escape is hard, but because the escape direction has been erased from existence. Let's make this more visceral. Imagine you're in a river. Upstream is behind you. Downstream is ahead. If you swim hard enough, you can move upstream. You can fight the current and make progress backward. Now imagine you go over a waterfall. You're in free fall. Which direction is upstream now? The question is meaningless. In free fall, there is no upstream. The geometry of the situation has changed such that certain directions no longer exist. That's what happens at a black hole. You cross the event horizon and the direction away from the singularity ceases to exist in your geometry. Here's what makes this so deeply strange. Light isn't being overpowered. Light is doing exactly what it always does, moving at constant speed in a straight line through space. But space has curved so severely that straight lines through space spiral inward. The light thinks it's escaping. From the light's perspective, it's moving away from the black hole in a perfectly straight line. But space is curved so much that straight line leads inexorably inward. This is what Feynman tried to help people understand. Black holes aren't about gravity being really strong. They're about geometry becoming pathological. They're about the fabric of space-time warping so completely that the normal rules, the normal directions, the normal possibilities cease to exist. It's not that you can't escape. It's that escape is not a coherent concept inside the event horizon. And here's the thing that should completely change how you see reality. This isn't science fiction. This isn't speculation. Black holes are real. We've detected them. We've photographed them. We've measured gravitational waves from black holes colliding. There are millions of them in our galaxy alone. Probably a supermassive one at the center of every major galaxy, including ours, which means there are regions of space-time right now in our universe where the geometry is so warped that certain directions don't exist, where space and time have swapped roles, where every possible future leads to a singularity. These places are real. The math predicts them. Observation confirms them. And they're doing exactly what Feynman's understanding of curved space-time says they should do. Think about what that means for the nature of reality. You think space is a stage, a passive background where things happen. But space is an active player. Space can warp. Space can curve. Space can curve rows. Space can create regions where escape is geometrically impossible. Space isn't nothing. Space is something. Something that can be shaped and bent and broken by mass and energy. You think time is universal, flowing the same everywhere. But time is local. Time is relative. Time can slow down, speed up, even swap roles with space. The rate at which you experience time depends on where you are and how you're moving. Near a black hole, time becomes so distorted that it effectively stops at the event horizon from an outside perspective. Someone watching you fall into a black hole would see you slow down, redshift, and freeze at the horizon, never quite crossing. But from your perspective, you fall right through in finite time. Same event, completely different experiences of time. This is the deep truth that black holes reveal. Reality isn't what it seems. Space and time aren't fixed backgrounds. They're dynamic, flexible, geometric structures that can be warped by mass and energy. And when you warp them enough, you create regions where the normal rules break down completely, where causality becomes one way, where futures become inevitable, where escape becomes impossible not because of any force, but because of pure geometry. So what is a black hole really? A black hole is a region where space-time is curved past the point of no return. It's a place where the geometry of reality has become so warped that all roads lead inward. It's proof that space and time are not what you think they are. They're not passive containers. They're active, shapeable, breakable aspects of a unified geometric structure. And nothing escapes not because gravity is pulling really hard, but because space itself has curved to the point where outside doesn't exist. The light racing away at maximum speed goes nowhere because the geometry beneath it has shifted such that forward equals inward. Motion continues. Speed remains constant, but progress becomes impossible because space itself has betrayed the direction. That's what Feynman understood. That's what Einstein showed us. That's what black holes prove. The universe is geometric. Reality is curved space-time. And when you understand that, when you really understand what's happening, everything changes. You realize that gravity isn't a force pulling you down. It's the Earth curving space-time beneath you and you falling along the straightest possible path through that curved geometry. You realize that orbits aren't balancing acts between velocity and gravity. There's straight-line motion through curved space. You realize that time isn't universal. It's relative, local, shapeable. And you realize that black holes aren't cosmic vacuum cleaners. They're scars in space-time. They're places where the geometry has collapsed so completely that the normal structure of reality has failed. They're wounds in the fabric of space and time themselves. So next time you hear that nothing can escape a black hole, remember what's really happening. It's not about strength. It's not about speed. It's not about being pulled back. It's about geometry. It's about space curving so severely that the direction you're trying to go has been erased from existence. Light doesn't fail to escape because it's not fast enough. Light fails to escape because it's racing at maximum speed through a geometry that has no exit. It's moving in a perfectly straight line through space that curves back on itself. And that reveals the deepest truth about reality. Space isn't nothing. Time is an absolute. Geometry is destiny. And sometimes the fabric of reality can warp so completely that escape isn't just difficult. It's geometrically, fundamentally, absolutely impossible. That's the real story of black holes. Not darkness, not mystery, not crushing gravity. Truth. Geometric, inevitable, reality-shattering truth. And that's what Feynman understood that changes everything.